Shrapnel.
Welcome to Film Shrapnel.
Yeah, welcome to Film Shrapnel, everyone. Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you? You seem pretty happy today.
I'm doing okay. How are
Nice.
you? What have you been up to?
Cooking steaks and eating steaks. So
Nice.
yeah, that's the best way to combine those two hobbies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty good. And I think I know why you're quite excited today, Tobias, because we're doing a really crazy film today.
This, ladies and gentlemen, this is RRR, which honestly, it might be my favorite film for a long. I really love this film. It's not my favorite of all time, but I love this film.
I also really like this film. I could sense it was epic, like right from the beginning. The energy that they built up. It wasn't even like the film hadn't even started, and there was so much all the credits and all the crazy shit just happening. So okay, this is getting me quite excited.
It's such a hype, man. The whole film is just a hype train. The director is the best hype man to have ever lived. This film's amazing, honestly. If people listening haven't seen this film, I implore you to go and watch it before you listen to this podcast. And what the hell are you doing here anyway? I mean, you can't like us that much.
This film is not like, when you watch this, don't expect like because a lot of stuff we've done so far has been quite Western, really, mostly Hollywood stuff. This is the first time we're doing anything from India.
We're branching out.
Yeah. It's our first international film, really. Even though it's funny because we're actually British, so neither of us are American anyway.
Well, they've all been international films for us.
In a way, yes. And this film, should we tell the guys actually what this is about before we get too crazy and excited?
Sure. Let's do like a basic rundown of the film. So, RRR, or also, I mean, RRR does stand for something, by the way.
Revenge, Raw, Revolt, I think it was.
Wasn't it? I thought it was Rise, Raw, Revolt. Maybe you're right and I'm wrong. I didn't write it down, so I'm gonna bet that you're right.
Let me see. I have Wikipedia open. There's actually a ton of information on this. I actually can't see anything about the name. We'll find out. We'll find out to be sure.
Yeah, you have a look. You look it up. I thought it was Rise. You think it's Revenge. Either way, this film is insane. We're following two characters from different backgrounds, and both of their journey during British occupation of India. I don't think we should say much more than that. I think we should just start talking about the film.
Yeah.
Because there are twists and turns in this film. I don't want to give away too much, just in case no one has seen this film.
But we're going to be talking about it for so long. Guys, ignore Tobias. You're going to get tons of spoilers. We know we're going to probably go for everything anyway. So
I really don't want to spoil this movie for anyone. I really don't. I'm terrified to give anything away to anyone about this film. I want people to go in blind because that is the best way to watch it.
I'll tell you this, though. You actually recently mocked me because I watched the pitch meeting guy for this one, and you're like, "What? Why would you watch that?" And then watch the film, and like, despite doing that and having the pitch meeting guy basically explain the entire story, I still really liked watching it. So, we shouldn't discourage the people too much. Keep listening to us on our.
I don't want to discourage anyone from watching this film. I really don't.
Yeah,
and I don't want to discourage anyone from listening to this podcast. However,
do both.
Please watch. Do both. Do both. But it shouldn't be us first. But do both.
You're too modest.
I am too modest. Well, we got to be nice. Please listen. Please listen. Just listen to us over and over and over again. You don't have to listen. Just leave your phone on the desk stand. Whatever. Just keep consuming, please. That's what we need. We're in a capitalist society. Consume us. We need recognition. Anyway, So this film opens, speaking of capitalism, with buying a child without the parents knowing that they're selling the child. This opening is so brutal. I've written a note here, Craig, that um, this film, this opening scene really sets the tone fast. You know, it sets up the how brutal, you know, the British are, and then we get this story about the value of a bullet being more valuable than an Indian life,
Mm-hmm.
and then we also see a woman's head getting caved in with like a piece of wood. So it really sets the tone. Like this is brutal,
Yeah.
and the next scene is the introduction of Ram, and it's this great action scene, and it's like, oh, okay, tonal reset button. That, you know, it's like they're like, okay, we've set a dark tone. Now press the reset button, new tone completely. We can't confuse anyone. Straight away, we need to make it very, very clear. This film is tonally scattered everywhere.
I was just going to say that it's actually, I think if you haven't seen too many Bollywood films, Indian cinema in general, uh, you like, I think a lot of people are going to assume, oh, okay, it's probably going to be a lot of singing and dancing, this and that, like at different moments. I think a lot of people have this assumption, but actually, this film doesn't have that much. I think there are at least, this is a 3 hour film,
It
and there may be
is.
like about three or four, if I'm even maybe not even four, songs in the entire film. There's one very big musical moment like midway through the film, and there's one at the end. But really, it's really an action film, and I remember the idea of this film is supposed to be quite international. They're trying to reach people not just in India but everywhere. They've reached us even.
Mm,
Uh,
they have
so I
just
think that
about.
they've changed it a bit, but also I have seen some Indian action like clips from films. Some of them have been really outrageous, and it still has that outrageousness. This really crazy stunts, this very amazing effects to make it really, really entertaining.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, this is it. I mean, I feel like because me and Craig went to uni together and studied film, and it has to be said, I think I definitely turned off a little bit when we were doing Bollywood cinema. I don't know about you, but I do remember because we were doing like sort of old school Bollywood cinema, so I wasn't sort of engaged too much, you know, to my detriment, really, because it would have been really useful for this podcast. Um, but I do sort of recall that everything that we were watching um, was very folklory, very, you know, about the gods and stuff. And, you know, I was reading something about RRR where they were talking about that, and they were saying, you know, the evolution of Bollywood cinema sort of comes from that, and sort of the god side of Bollywood cinema was phased out, but the fantastical uh, sort of nature of how the stories are displayed, and like for example, like the musical numbers, all of that sort of remained within the cinema, even though other stuff got phased out. The themes got phased out, but the style remained, which I thought was quite interesting. I wish I'd listened more in at uni. I really do.
I do remember when we, I think when we were studying film together, I think we had a couple of different lectures on cinema in India. And I think at one
Yeah.
point we started off with like the early period. So actually, a lot of people probably don't know. Well, people probably know that India produces a lot of film,
A
like
lot.
a lot. I think it maybe, yeah, definitely it outpaces Hollywood. I'm not sure about Nigeria and Nollywood now because they're rising a lot there now too.
I think
Um,
they're up there. I think
yeah,
above Bollywood even.
I'm not even sure, and we need to check that actually. But I do remember that's even been the case really early on. Like when cinema first started to take off, like in early 1900s. Because people, I think some people think where cinema started, maybe they think they started in America. Really, it happened all over the world at different places. And India was a huge hub for this. And if you look at some of the really old Indian films from back in those days, like they were similar genres to what we have in Europe and the West. But then over time, they kind of developed their own style. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure about this. I'm kind of guessing, but I think this is probably also something to do with national identity, especially because this would have started under British rule. Another topic we're going to definitely talk about in this film. I think there was probably there's like been a rise of Hindu nationalism a lot in India in the last 20, 30 years, especially now the current president, I think he is, Modi, has been said he's like a Hindu nationalist. He's very focused on this. It's quite crazy because India is a very, very diverse country. But while this happened, this kind of rise of a new identity, bringing back, rejecting British stuff, and let's, we are Indian. This is our culture, and maybe this kind of influenced the style of films and type of genres that later emerged in India since that period. That's my theory, anyway.
All of these things would inform the cinema. It would inform all forms of media. So yeah, I don't think you're a stone throw away from the answer. I reckon that sounds about right. Fair play. Someone listened at uni. I suppose some people might find it jarring. I certainly didn't, but I do think a lot of people are immediately turned off to the Bollywood format. Not a lot of people want to sit and watch musicals at the best of times. And then you've got other people who don't want to sit and read subtitles. So it's already, going against Western appeals. But if you get past it, I mean, RRR is certainly evidence enough that we've missed out. I really want to have a look at some more Indian cinema, because obviously RRR is Tollywood because it's Telugu. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Telugu. So it might be interesting. Maybe the next couple of pods we focus on some Indian cinema, some diverse Indian cinema. That might be interesting. Speaking of style, though, because it's hard to think that this film hasn't been massively influenced by other Western films. That tonally, there's so many images that I recognize from many, many Western films. Getting whipped in the middle of the street. I've seen that so many times, but I think sort of most notably in Passion of the Christ, obviously. But I feel this film, it's sort of like you've got your martial arts sprinkled in there. You've got sort of shades of Les Miserables, which is kind of crazy. You've got the Marvel movies are definitely prevalent in there.
Oh yeah.
We still haven't gotten through this opening scene.
Yeah.
And it is pretty brutal. But then once we get through this opening scene, we then are given the two best character introductions I've ever seen in any movie. One after another.
Yeah, they do have pretty good introductions. I think I like Ragu's a bit more. It's a bit crazy.
Oh yeah. He beats the living shit out of what feels like 100-odd people. And what they don't do in martial arts films is when there's like a big group of people surrounding like the guy that they're all going to fight, they just sort of jump at him one at a time. No, and you just think to yourself, if you all just went for him at the same time, you'd take him out. And in this movie, everyone goes for this guy at the same time, and they still can't take him out.
Yeah. I've seen some action clips from Indian films that are kind of similar.
Really?
It's like the odds are always on their side. Like the insaneness of what they give their characters to do. It's like there is no realism here. It's just absolutely nuts. It's like godlike, really, I would say. It's like that's the thing I always find strange when I see this in Indian cinema, in the action scenes. Is like, why is he that guy like that? Like comparing it to like Marvel movies or whatever. There's always a reason why this guy can lift a car or fight 100 people. he was bitten by a spider, radioactiveness, some origin that gave them this ability. But you see in this film, well, later I think there is something about gods that I think you're going to explain more about later. But at the beginning, like, why is it? Because he's an officer in the British Army. Why can Raju just fight like that? What makes him special? Same with Bahim, but I think Bahim, he's it's like his protector of the forest. You can kind of guess, or maybe there's some mystical stuff going on there. But
the thing is, I mean, I wanted to save it until a little bit later, but both of these characters are sort of within Indian folklore. These are two real world people that, in their own mission, in their own way, rose up against the British. And they've sort of, they've got their own stories that aren't RRR, but this is like a historical reimagining if these two men had met. And since then, because of they've sort of become embedded in Indian folklore, Indian music, Indian movies. These characters have sort of taken on a life of their own, and they're sort of, I feel like in this movie both of them are imbued with the power of India. Like, India is giving them this power to revolt against the British. It's great. It's fucking great. I love this movie so much. Like, what's great about it? It's fucking mental, but if you actually sit down and think about it, it's actually really poignant as well. It's really quite brilliant.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to take the turn it went. I was really expecting it to be just about these two guys going in and saving this little girl, Mali, and bringing her back to her parents. But then it becomes this
so much more.
Yeah, it becomes really kind of revolution film. The last R stands for revolt, we think.
Yeah.
But I think it's very interesting that it came to that, because looking at the world today, so we have Britain becoming the United Kingdom, if you will. The United Kingdom has been declining for a long time, pretty much since World War II. After winning that war, the UK has kind of just been, I don't know, lugging it on and like just slowly losing economic power. And I think there's a lot of people in the UK who still don't really get that we're not what we were. We're just a country now. We're not the biggest guy on the international stage. And especially after Brexit, it just feels like the UK is getting a bit weaker and weaker. And then on the other hand, you have India, a former colony until 1947 or 48. I can't remember. Actually, main reason India left the war, joined the war, was because Britain promised independence if they helped. And India has changed a lot since then, and I don't think it wants to be thought of as next part of the empire, although this film is about that. It's like we're now a big guy on the stage, because now, interestingly enough, I read in an article that India is now the 5th largest economy in the world, just nudging Britain down to 6th. So now, like the world is changing. India wants its foot on the world stage. Britain is kind of losing its step on the world stage. You can kind of see India's current position on the world stage in this film through their current leadership, and also like they haven't forgot also the shit that they went through with the British. It's not in the back of they're not going to think lightly of it. The British did some horrible fucking shit all over the world, and India's like, we're not going to let that go, man. So
yeah, fair. I mean, well, this is it. This film is a celebration of the past, and it is, this sort of, it's very patriotic, this film. There's a lot of patriotic moments that we'll break into. But let's talk. We've talked about Ram and his opening, this giant fight sequence, which is fucking amazing. But then we've also got our second character, Beam.
Yeah,
I love Beam as well. And both of these characters, we got Ram, who's sort of representing fire as an element, and we've got beam that's representing water, and they beat you over the head with a stick with with this imagery, don't they?
Yeah.
Like Ram always is in, got fire and shit going on, and then Beam, his opening sequence, you think you're looking at him, you're actually looking at his reflection in like a river. It's a really beautiful shot. A lot of the shots in this are great.
They're really nice. It's really well. That's the first thing I noticed actually from the beginning scene is how well it's shot. Really nice.
Yeah. I think this guy, he needs to make a Marvel movie.
It's very possible. You could really see it already, couldn't you? This is like an Indian Marvel movie already.
Exactly. If I was Kevin Feige, I would say we need to get this guy to do like Avengers. Like he should be the new Avengers guy, because this film, the scale of it, like it's massive. It's so much bigger than standalone superhero films. This is an Avengers scale movie, which is kind of mental. I really enjoy this movie on a emotional level, on a cinematic level, the spectacle of it, everything about it. It's the best bromance movie I've ever seen. It's great.
Yeah. But there was some. Do you want to go through the stuff that you didn't like though? Anything that burned on you? No?
There's nothing I didn't like. I refuse. Okay. There's a few things I didn't like. So we've got I just think general portrayal of white people is it's just it's funny because it's like, maybe this is what China thinks when they watch American Jackie Chan films, or what Austria think when they watch Arnold Schwarzenegger films. But when these are terrible actors,
they're all bad.
All of the English people are just dreadful. Like, and yet, okay, character-wise, also very dreadful. But just the performance side of things to begin with. I mean, these people can't act. They're terrible. Really quite bad. It would have been nice to have had some good acting in this movie from, the bad guys, as I say, for a film for this scale, you would have liked to have seen, a well-known actor in there that's, could you imagine I don't know, Michael Caine?
Yeah.
Let's get Michael Caine as the bad guy. And I reckon he'd do something like this. He'd be like, do you know what the value of a bullet is? Yeah, I'll tell you what the value of... honestly, I think if you could have gotten some higher caliber actors to play all the English-speaking characters, I would have been very... It would have been... It's world-breaking, isn't it? It feels very fake.
Yeah, I was just thinking if you did do that, if you did get Michael Caine and a string of other better-known British actors, I think you could have even reached a larger, more international audience as well, which would be interesting. And I was also wondering, do you think it's just the acting, or do you think it's the lines that they've been given that are a bit bad? Because I think it's a bit of both. Like I like to think but maybe they go hand in hand, because like if you're given a bad line and you're an actor, if you're a good actor, like
you can make it work.
You can make it work, or you can say, look, guys, I'm going to be honest, this line is a bit crap. Can I change it a little bit? Can I do it this way or that way? Maybe if they have the influence to say that. But these guys just kind of go along with it, and it just...
Are you suggesting the white actors couldn't speak English?
They
were having to learn all their lines phonetically.
We never know. Maybe they didn't know them till 2 minutes before they shot. Who knows?
Possibly. I mean, that does happen. Rewrites and whatnot. But maybe they just didn't care. Maybe they were just more like, we just want you guys to be the worst. Like that was their direction. You're just the worst. Like, think of the worst. That's you. And that was all they needed. They were like, okay, all right. And I feel like they put it off. I absolutely buy that these people are assholes.
Yeah,
but
totally.
the, the only problem is it's such a bad performance. It makes you think, well, maybe the actors are just assholes.
But I was going to say, actually, like this is a film it's supposed to entertain you. There, like,
yes,
the suspension of disbelief has to be is very strong here. You really have to let go of some things.
absolutely.
But like when it comes to the cruelty of the British guys, like, yeah, that's probably believable. There's that silly scene with the motorbike, which, by the way, when the hell did Bahim learn how to do like work with motorbikes? If he's like in the jungle, protecting the people there, his people, and suddenly he just goes to the city. Yeah, I fix motorbikes now. When did you learn this?
It literally, it's such a shift, isn't it? Because the last time we'd seen him, he was fighting a tiger in the jungle, and he was like full Mowgli mode, but barely dressed. He's like proper tribal, and then the next scene, he's undercover as Akhtar, your friendly Muslim neighbor, who's a mechanic, and it's like, wait, what? what happened? Like, surely there's a scene cut. There's a missing scene there, isn't there? Surely, here's your cover. Your name's Akhtar. Do you know anything about motorcycles? No, I don't. Right, we'll have to give you a crash course. Something. But yeah, it feels like there's a scene missing. A few scenes missing.
I also feel like talking about the characters' backstories and changing like their identities and stuff. So with Ram or Raju, so when we first by the way, we don't know their names till 40 minutes into this film when they finally shake hands under that
under the bridge
after they save their little kid's life. And
we will talk about that scene in great detail. Wow.
So we introduced to Raju as Raju, right? And then at some point, people start referring to him as Ram. Like, who is Ram? And then, Ram is his first name. It's like, why did we not do that earlier? And then also, by the way, he is undercover. Why does he use his real name? Why doesn't he have enough? Because at least Bahim was smart enough to use a fake name, but no one even knows who he is. But Raju, he's in the military and he's using his real name. I don't know.
Is it? No, I don't think he is using his real name.
Who?
Ram. I think Ram is his name. Ram. That's his name. Raju's is pseudonym.
Are you sure? I think his full name is Ram something.
Maybe.
Raju.
Maybe.
Let's see. Let's have a look at the cast.
Not 100% sure, but either way, you're quite right. We don't find out. We learn it's a bit confusing, isn't it? Because you see them with one name, then you see them with another, and you don't know that Ram is undercover as well. I was pretty strapped in that he's the bad guy. He's the badass bad guy who's going to bring this guy in. I was actually comfortable believing that for a lot of the movie, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd missed the scene, but I was like, God, like, this guy's such an asshole. Like, but he's badass, and I was like, they've really set up a great villain here. I thought he was meant to be a villain. He's got a fucking amazing mustache in his opening scene. He murders fucking everyone. And then, like, when we see him in his relationship with Bean, he is like such a sweetheart. And you're like, oh, this guy's got depth. He's a normal guy, but he's also a badass. He's also a mean motherfucking badass. But then you find out about his mission, and you're like, okay, he was never bad. I like you even more now.
Yeah, they do change a lot, don't they? So I'm looking now at the cast on Wikipedia,
Go on.
So the actor who plays Raju, there's lots of Rams here, and it's getting me confused because it says that Ramacharan plays Alluri Sitarama Raju. So I guess Raju is his proper name. So there's no where's the Ram, and
All
then
right.
I see here his father. The character is called Venkata Rama Raju, who is the father. So I'm confused. Yeah, I think I don't know. I can't answer it. The question. But I think probably it's supposed to be both Ram and Raju.
The guy who plays Ram is distractingly attractive. He's very handsome. Like when he gets rid of the moustache, you're like, what? It's distracting. I'm like, no, I don't. Now it's difficult to buy you as a badass because you're like really handsome. Did you not get that?
He suddenly moved to the 21st century when he got rid of that mustache and grew a beard.
Well, this is the thing though. His hair never. It's always perfect. All the action scenes that man is in, his hair is coiffed to perfection in every single shot, and it's not possible. It's not possible. The man has supernatural hair. I'm telling you. But I've got a note written down here. Both these guys are the biggest Telugu actors, like Telugu language speaking actors. So they are very, very. They're held in very high regard. You know, this is like if this is like Indian Heat. You know, this is if De Niro and Pacino had gotten together and made a movie in their prime. You know, that's what this is, and it's directed by Scorsese.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting you mentioned Heat because one of the films I did think about when we were watching this was The Departed, actually, because you have two guys undercover who are looking for each other.
Well, look, we've already said Passion, like there's elements of Passion of the Christ, Kung Fu films, Les Mis, Marvel movies, and I was going to even say Inglourious Bastards in how this is like a sort of fictitious version of the past. So there's a lot of shades. There's a lot of shades of different Western films in this.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got a note here about the director actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've looked anything into him, but his name is S.S. Rajamouli, and he has made 12 movies. All 12 of them have been top-grossing Indian films. 5 of the highest-grossing Indian films to have ever been made. 3 of them he made. He is very prolific in his cinema. He is like, he is basically Kevin Feige or Chris Nolan or one of these big, like every movie he makes, he can't fail. Everything he touches turns to gold. I was reading something because obviously this film is not Bollywood, it's Tollywood, and that got me looking into it. There's a lot of Hollywoods in India because there's a lot of languages. Mollywood is a thing, Collywood is a thing. There's loads, right? So Indian cinema is massively separated by language. However, S.S. Rajamouli, all of his films are dubbed in all Indian languages.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this inbuilt, everyone wants to watch his films. His films are transcending all Indian audiences. So this is like it's like his cinema is like super Indian movies. Like they're supercharged because all of India is in on it. It's not, there's no restriction on language. Everyone's in on the joke, or everyone's in on the reference, or everyone's in on the message, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it makes me feel a bit stupid. When you watch these films. Oh, did you know that these two actors are like the most famous in this language? And also the director is like one of the biggest in India. It's like, oh shit, I didn't know a shit about them. And I feel like we're so Western and we don't even realize it. It's a bit sad.
Honestly, I think we should maybe have a look at some of his other films, because the highest grossing Indian movie is another film that he's made. RRR is at number 3.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so there are other films of his. Well, there's one other film of his that has grossed more money than this and is held in higher esteem. So maybe we should give that film a shot.
What's it called?
I didn't write it down. But you could look it up if you look up the highest grossing Indian films. I'm away from my laptop, but if you looked it up, I'm sure you'd find it quite quickly.
Let me Google it now.
Give it a Google, but I'm sure it's worth us giving a podcast to. Um, so this is the setup. We've set up these two super powerful characters that, I mean, they don't have superpowers, but they are sort of transitioning the laws of physics because of their plight against the British. I suppose. All right, spoiler alert: he's infiltrating the British in order to liberate weapons and liberate Indian people. Put weapons in Indian hands, and see the British back off. So both of them are fighting for good, even though it's framed as a good guy versus bad guy. But then we get them actually meeting. And oh my God, this scene is unreal, because the scene opens with Ram being an asshole, where he goes to a sort of secret meeting about revolting against the British, and he betrays someone. He tries to get them arrested, betrays someone to find Bean. And then this chase scene ensues, which isn't really all that important, because it's all about when we get to the bridge. This bridge scene, Craig. Oh, chef's
It's
kiss.
it's very fun to watch. Very
It's
fun to watch.
amazing. And I can't get over some of the ridiculousness. Although, before we get into the bridge scene, you were asking me about things I didn't like. Is there anything you didn't like about the film that we haven't touched on?
Oh, there were a couple of small things that I noticed, but I don't know. I think
Oh, the CGI is obvious. Like, there's a lot of janky CG.
nah. I don't really think too much about that stuff. I mean, it's not like Toy Story level from 1994 or anything. It's good. It's decent enough for me to
I mean,
watch.
yeah, it's integrated well with the action as well. Like, it takes some serious cinematic know-how to have achieved this film. This is a massive undertaking, this movie. That it's
Yeah.
so big. However, I do think the CGI a little bit janky, but obviously, that's a lower budget. It's a lower
Mm.
budget movie than Hollywood epics that have millions of dollars invested into it, and obviously everything's more expensive out in the West to get done. So it's sort of easy to imagine that uh, it's not fair to criticize the CGI. I think just
Yeah.
based on our own sort of experiences with CG, it's absolutely fine to criticize like the Marvel movies because of the amount of money they've invested in on it. There really shouldn't be any faults.
They're seen as like being industry leaders in this. So you when you see something, it's like, what is going on? But with this film, I didn't really even think about it. I just accepted it for how it was, to be honest.
Mm,
Uh, there was two things that small things. I was like, what is going on? Like, I noticed two odd things in the background. I don't know if you noticed them too.
go on.
There was when they're talking about finding Bahim. Uh, there's all these British guys, and then Raju says he'll do it. Uh, in While this is happening, there's a big map of the British Empire behind them, and for some reason Brazil was marked as British. And I was like, what? Why is there a
Oh,
huge Union flag on? And I saw it comes up a bit later in the film as well, and I found that a bit strange. And I saw also a sign at one point. I can't remember who's talking. A couple of guys talking, and in the background is a sign, and it says Victoria's something, but Victoria's was spelt incorrectly. The R was before the O, and I like, how did that happen? So there's some little things like that.
I can't say I noticed those. I mean,
Yeah,
the scope of the film. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think I noticed. It sort of it bled into the background for me. Little things like that.
yeah. But what I found thinking about other things that were a bit, those are just little things that were maybe just a bit wrong. I don't know,
Yeah.
like just a mistake. But thinking about stuff that was done on purpose. What do you think about the whip?
I mean, look, I've got notes about that. Hang on, let me find that scene in my notes. I've got so many fucking notes.
It's a bit kinky, isn't it? Why does she have this fucking whip? Don't use that one. Use this one. And like she
All right,
just.
yeah. What was it? I've got. Oh, I'll read my notes verbatim. Sad face. Oh no! Now they're gonna try and hurt Beam. I love him, and they've got a whip. Oh fuck! Oh fuck! It's fucking brutal. But yeah, so the razor whip is a lot, isn't it? It's well, look, this whole film is like from start to finish cheesy to the max. I think I read somewhere someone described this film as, I think it might have been a video I watched, I'm not sure, but someone described this film as, have you ever seen Spinal Tap?
Mm-hmm.
You know that scene where he's like, these amps go to 11.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what this director is like, I can do everything at 11 max level, you know, and there's no time to sort of breathe either. Like it just keeps hitting you over the head over and over again.
Yeah, it doesn't slow down at all.
No, it doesn't. Except for like the best friends stuff, because right. Let's talk about them. So
the bromance,
it's fucking great. I love this, bro. It's legit. I have to say, a lot of the bromance stuff interweaved with all of the badass stuff. This film just feels like a giant Key and Peele skit. It really does. Like it. They've got a musical friendship montage because they love each other so much. Oh, it's fucking great. It's fucking great, this movie. Let's talk about this bridge scene.
Go on.
So we've got this chase sequence, and then we end up on the bridge, and then we've set up a child in the river. That's important. It adds stakes. We set up this train exploding. Train explodes. Bridge is all fucking up. Everyone's about to die. Ram has chased the guy there, so he's at the bridge. He's looking for Beam. Beam is there. He knows that someone is after him. They know it's an Indian guy because the guy who got chased said he looked like us. I didn't think he would be a soldier, or a policeman. So they know he's an Indian guy. And then, for whatever reason, they don't even fucking realize that they're both the guy that they're looking for. Why don't they realize sooner? But you have Ram on the bridge, Beam on the ground, and they just lock eyes at like fucking 100 yards apart. They just lock eyes and they just hand gesture to each other. And suddenly they know exactly what to do. And then, boom, he gets on the bike, zoom, up to the bridge. And then they're still not close enough to talk. They still haven't even heard each other talk yet. It's just more best friend sign language. Because that's it. They got best friend sign language powers. It's great. They do this sign language shit. And like, it's pretty succinct way of communicating such a complicated plan. Because now we're going to have one of them go off the edge, boom, out of the motorcycle, fly down, grab a rope, pick up a child, and swing under the bridge, while the other one jumps off a fucking horse with also his rope, jumps down, grabs the original Indian flag, or the unofficial original Indian flag, scrapes it with water. And you think, so why are you doing that? No, we haven't got there yet. Scrapes it with the water at the bottom, and then they throw each other. You get the child, I get the flag, and then he saves the child while the other one wraps the flag around him to save himself from the fire. And then they swing together and shake hands.
Yeah, you loved that, didn't you?
Amazing. Is it not the best pre-credit sequence ever?
Oh, in that sense, yes. It's a crazy. It's crazy when you realize that we haven't even got to the credits yet, and all this shit has happened. It's like,
we haven't. The story hasn't even started. The story hasn't even started.
I think it's about 40 minutes. Yeah, really, because I noted that down when we finally hear them say their names, and then we have the big RRR thing come up with the crazy music.
Oh,
then I think we have the bromance happening after that.
Shrapnel.